Through the American agency, the so-called USAID, money was sent for which strategic silence was bought. In response to this strategic silence, we will talk strategically. We have a sincere desire to achieve a break at any cost for the Kyiv regime and not allow the collapse of the front. This pause in the terrorist regime, with the help of its allies in the West, is used to strengthen its own military potential and subsequent attempts at revenge. We will repeat what we have repeatedly said. We need solid agreements on final settlement. Without all this, some rest, regrouping, all this is absolutely unacceptable, as it will lead to exactly the opposite result. Ursula von der Leyen called on all her like-minded people to put Ukraine in a position of power and turn it into a steel wilderness. I repeat, we have seen and read a lot, but apparently the bottom is not pierced. Do you know what the German word for a steel wilderness sounds like? Stachelschwein. You did not hear it. This is not a play on words, but a real translation. Literally, it means a spiked pig. I beg your pardon, did we understand you correctly, Ursula von der Leyen? Do you want to turn the Kyiv regime into a spiked pig? You know, it seems to me that the Kyiv regime has long since turned into this very spiked pig, into this very steel wilderness, and has long been in a position of power. The problem is that they have very much erased their knees in this position. 8 months of house arrest with the ban on approaching the general consulate and possessing weapons for 5 years. Well, you just have to sit at home for 8 months and not go and not look at the crime scene, where criminals usually go, as we know from the classics. A powerful legal system. Having seen such a relationship as justice, complete indulgence, of course, will make a choice in favor of extremism. They will have absolutely no one to use against. They see the absolute ease of perception of the French law enforcement system of such crimes and will make the appropriate conclusions from this. Complete indulgence is generated not only by impunity, but also by punishment for the disproportionate severity of the crime committed. We again urge the French authorities to take exhaustive measures to ensure the safety of Russian foreign institutions and their family members. The German authorities have purposefully facilitated the implementation of such a step. And it is obvious that one of the purposes of the event was the public legitimization of the Russian Federation's terrorist organization. Interacting with it, Berlin is playing with fire, and this fire can easily spread to Germany. We highly recommend that the German side assess the risks associated with the support of such structures. Germany's experience was more than sad. What Macron said yesterday is a set of false theses. I don't even know if the words there are true. He was talking about ensuring the guarantee of security for Ukraine. He did not say a word about the fact that peaceful settlement is impossible without taking into account the legal interests of Russia and all of Europe. He does not stand any criticism at all, without an operative statement about the violation of the Minsk Agreements of Russia, which was voiced by Macron again. How is that? After all, it was his predecessor, President Hollande, the President of France, François Hollande, who said that he did not intend and was not going to implement them. Because in this way, they simply took the time and supplied Ukraine with weapons and prepared it for aggressive actions and so on. Angela Merkel said the same thing. Did President Macron and his entourage not see this? After all, they did not talk about it in the corridors. These are not indirect quotes. These are their direct appeals to the public through the media. But how to communicate with him, Maria Vladimirovna? Who communicates with him? What was the concept of peaceful settlement with the Ukrainian side? What is the negotiation process? We only see such memes and nonsense that fill the airspace. something like a formula for victory, for trouble, for peace, for something else, for which nothing stands. Ukraine can ensure its own security, namely, return to the origins of its statehood, which is enshrined in the 1990 Declaration on its state sovereignty. It's just a breath of fresh air to talk about Ukraine's membership in some economic integration unions at the current stage. What are we talking about? The country has collapsed. People are being thrown out of their homes every day and thrown to the bloody monster Zelensky. And you say, let's talk about Vysoky, how they will integrate into the Western world economic system. They don't have their own economy. Their entire economy is on injections, on corruption, on, so to speak, some kind of subsidies, and of course on lending. The Russian-American contacts, which were literally killed by the previous U.S. administration, are now being set up. The U.S. ambassador to the United States, Mr. Dorchev, is appointed. He will obviously restore these connections, these contacts already there on the spot. As for the issue of peacekeeping, it is complex and requires, as you absolutely correctly said, an expert-level discussion of the details. We still expect the U.S. administration to appoint an official representative for the launch of the negotiation process and the formation of a team of negotiators. Accordingly, after that, we will be able to select a visa from the Russian side. We do not speak out and do not discuss the issue of lifting the sanctions. We did not introduce them to ourselves. We have always said that they have a destructive, unlawful nature. And first of all, they get those who came up with them and who introduced them. Why? Because we introduce counter-sanctions, we answer. Therefore, there is no point in discussing this topic. But what is the point? There is no point. You ask these questions to those who introduced these sanctions. Our current step in terms of restrictions on the Japanese foreign minister is the update of countermeasures taken into account by the continuation of the official hostile course in Tokyo, including new so-called sanction packages and direct material technical and military industrial assistance to the Kyiv regime. With the preservation of such a Japanese foreign policy line, we will be ready to further develop additional countermeasures. We believe that the international community will inevitably come to accept the Russian status of the Republic of Donbass, the regions of Novorossiya. The situation on the ground will also play a big role here.